For over a decade, their marriage had been a quiet sanctuary, steady, warm, and free from chaos. He had always considered himself lucky. His wife was gentle, affectionate, and present in every way that mattered. She never gave him a reason to doubt her devotion, and he responded in kind with unwavering loyalty and love. Their life together was predictable in the best way, a partnership built on years of trust, shared values, and mutual respect. But that quiet foundation began to crack the day she brought up something unexpected. One evening, over wine and a casual dinner, she suggested they explore the idea of an open marriage. She spoke of how times had changed, how many of her friends in 2024 had adopted more modern approaches to love and relationships. She said it casually as if discussing a new restaurant. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't storm out. He simply asked questions. Was this truly her idea? Had someone planted the thought? Was there already someone she was thinking about? She denied any outside influence. No, there was no one else, she claimed. Just curiosity. Just a thought she wanted to share. And if it made him uncomfortable, she promised they'd drop it and keep everything as it was. He told her he needed time. And she gave it. Over the next several days, something inside him shifted. He couldn't shake the feeling that the suggestion had come from somewhere deeper, or darker. It wasn't just a random idea. It was something she'd been sitting with, something she was already emotionally invested in. He couldn't ignore the unease. It gnawed at him constantly. Eventually, he gave in to his doubts and checked her phone and laptop, silently praying he was wrong. To his surprise, there were no signs of cheating. No flirtatious messages. No inappropriate pictures. Just a clean slate, at least on the surface. It brought temporary relief but not peace. After a week of reflection, he reached a conclusion that tore at his heart. He told her plainly, he couldn't accept an open marriage. If that's what she truly wanted, then she was free to pursue it, without him. Her eyes welled up immediately. She wept, not just tears of regret but of desperation. She swore she didn't want anyone else. That she loved only him. That she would forget the idea forever. But something had broken in him. Not because she had cheated, she hadn't, at least not physically, but because she'd opened the door to a world he had never invited into their home. A world where loyalty had asterisks and emotional safety had conditions. And he couldn't unsee that door. She refused to move out, so he relocated to the guest room. That physical distance mirrored the emotional chasm growing between them. She fell ill soon after, stress perhaps, and took time off work. She begged him to return to their bed, to talk, to fight for what they once had. But he was done begging for something he hadn't broken. Then came the moment that confirmed every gut feeling he'd ignored. He discovered a second phone, one she had never mentioned. She didn't even try to deny it. She admitted she'd been using it to communicate with people outside the marriage. She assumed he had already figured it out and confessed without resistance. What he found on that phone shattered any remaining hope. There were long, emotionally intimate conversations with another man. She had been sharing vulnerable details about their relationship, exposing cracks and complaints in ways that made the other person feel like her confidant, even her escape plan. She wasn't just testing the waters, she had one foot out the door. It wasn't just betrayal. It was premeditated. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't give her the satisfaction of a dramatic argument. But something inside him solidified like concrete. This wasn't salvageable. His pride, his self-worth, the respect he had for their bond, it had all been quietly eroded long before the confession. She begged again. She cried harder. She promised to cut off the friends she blamed for planting these thoughts. She'd delete the apps, block the contacts, start therapy. Anything. Everything. But it was too late. Even though he still cared for her, even though a part of him would always feel something, love wasn't enough anymore. Not when it came wrapped in deception. He had given her all the loyalty in the world, and she repaid him with doubts, secrecy, and emotional infidelity. As if the pain wasn't already unbearable, fate dealt him another blow. A close family member, someone he loved like a son, died suddenly in a car accident. Grief collided with betrayal, and he became emotionally numb. He didn't have the energy to argue or explain. He needed space to mourn. But she didn't understand. She insisted on helping with the funeral arrangements, despite his clear objection. Claimed the deceased was like family to her too. But her involvement felt intrusive, another way to center herself in something that wasn't hers to control. He asked her to step back. She refused. He asked again. Still she pressed on. It wasn't just about the funeral. It was the culmination of everything. The lack of respect. The need to be heard when he asked for silence. the need to be comforted when he was the one in pain. So he left. He moved into the apartment above his restaurant and took the ashes with him. It was his way of reclaiming control, of choosing solitude over chaos. His brother, who worked the bar, was instructed to turn her away if she showed up. She tried. She called. She messaged. She cried over the phone. She accused him of being heartless for keeping the ashes. He blocked her on everything. And that was the end. Maybe not legally, not yet, but emotionally, spiritually, romantically, it was over. There was no version of the future where they rebuilt what had been lost. The betrayal had left a scar too deep, the trust too shattered to piece back together. He still hadn't filed for divorce. Not yet. There were too many moving parts. But in his heart, he had already left. Now he was focused on healing, on grieving, on rebuilding what remained of his life one step at a time. Not for anyone else, not to prove a point, but for himself. Because sometimes, the most painful part of loving someone is choosing to let them go, even when they're still begging you to stay.